Thanks to all our open mic readers. And now to introduce our featured guests, we'll first start the evening with Jessica Cohn. Finding her way forward in the post-truth world, Jessica Cohn marks a path with rocks, ribbons, and observations in verse. In Gratitude Diary, the first poetry collection from this longtime nonfiction writer, the poems follow an arc from grief and regret to illumination, from broken islands and rancid flower water to communal fire and the Medicine Creek. Within these pages, readers are fitted with the apparition of wings to find the healing and terrible beauty found in stranger things. A Michigan native, Cohn has made home in Illinois, New York, and most recently Aptos here in California, where she started a poetry practice. Poetry practice with the support of the Santa Cruz community of writers. And you can find out more about her on her website, jessicacohn.net. Please welcome Jessica to the mic.
Oh, Gratitude Diary is 10 years worth. 10 years worth of poetry. I started writing poems 10 years ago. And this is not like all the poetry in 10 years. It's like, it's a collection of poems from the last 10 years. It didn't come together. It didn't make sense. It wasn't structured until a very odd thing happened. I had a poem, a very strange poem called Gratitude Diary, that, you know how you have a poem and it's just stuck in your computer and you leave it there because it's weird and you're kind of ashamed of it even? Well, down in Houston, there's a thing called public poetry, and they had a call for an anthology of habits, the good, bad, and ugly. And I was like, oh, that poem is about the journaling habit. It kind of illustrates the journaling habit in an off way. And it also, during this last 10 years, there were various times I knew people who were very depressed, and to get out of it, they would every day come up with something they were grateful for. And so I wrote this poem, and that poem is in 10 parts. And I realized suddenly that the 10 parts of that poem, which go from despondency to life celebration, would be an excellent way to divide the collection. And I've never done this before, but I'm going to read the whole Gratitude Diary poem from start to finish. We have our lifelines when down, 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 down. I start counting. 2 clicks in the right ear, 3 morning pages, 4 rounds with demons. Even now, this skull is a broken clay pot, some potting soil, a crowbar. I count things to be thankful for. 1, the satisfaction that comes from making lists. 2, count with me. Let's be thankful for running showers. The handle that brings more heat for fog on the shower door, hiding the wall mirror. For municipal water in conversation with itself, hissing itself quiet. If only clock faces were like that. Some people say we dream life manifests, but that's the excuse for not helping much beyond your credit card number. How much for that slip beneath the shed door? 3, thankful for a button jar left open on the dresser, because who can't be thankful for the depth of all those white and clear and colored buttons, for their smooth presence as they fall through open fingers, their cataract of clicks. Memories should be nearly weightless too, punched with even holes, so we might thread them together, wear them around our necks, know where they are. 4, you can always be thankful for an empty box. Because where would we be without an extra box always? It's 4 flap folds, snappy sides, it's nifty broad tape colored like cardboard, how it shuts its own trap, how beautifully a stupid brown box gets to hold itself together. 5, thankful for angels, the kind with 5 fingers and just as much hurt, the kind who respond. 6, thankful too for open window kind of weather when you can get at a stir of a thing. That's how it was when I first heard a kid in the neighborhood an espionage. I love that term. We had no names for it when brothers and sisters, mothers and fathers too, lived on Mars in our very own houses. I opened a window and I could hear him greet day from his gray house beyond the big valley oak. 7, oh, he's still here. I was thinking he had moved on, left this world too, but no, he's outside making whale song again, high priest of the upper deck. Eerie, soothing waves of sound. 8, he wails and rumbles, and the birds go quiet. Dogs go still. The cul-de-sac recreated. Here now, an unfolding bowl, holding out some collapsible sound, rounding all the numbers up and down. 9, for the terrible beauty, how it wraps and ribbons the world. 10, for the brush of stranger things. So as I said, start of the book, despondency, the end of the book, happiness, like enough happiness to actually share it with people. So not to keep you down, I figured I'd do one poem from day one poem from day 8. There's a big difference, but it occurred to me suddenly, they both have they're like 2 sides of the same theme. So the first one is called Body. I carry small wounds in junk drawers of the body. Within hallways of the cranium, limbs, trunk, pain can pace. In stabbing and in warming, a body speaks, it minds. I heard from a healer that attaching a name to pain invites breakthrough. I won't name names. It's been, I still count on fingers, more than 50 years since that winter I took to sketching geometry torsos in a gallery in Ann Arbor, 2 charcoals mark. His statues spoke in traumatized bronze, the hard press of negative space. I could see how a body could carve itself up. In his early still lifes, a hint of mastery to come. In still life, we yield the floor to someone's controlled tabletops, its books and apples, pomegranates, vessels of shapeless lost now and then, an extinguished candle, a drooping rose, emptied wine glass, in vanitas, rancid flower water. I am no art historian, won't assert learned pointeds of the genre, how we turn from religious to decorative arts. But in still life, I see the time before or after ravaging. Mania. You may feel a need to argue that point. Go ahead, you're welcome. There are so many ways we do not listen to one another. I cannot, all these years later, resurrect the flickering of loose leaf life, of wildflowers, the girl from before. But if I could go to her there, on the bench of the gallery, I might whisper, she's going to be okay. If not, how long it takes. I get confused about lifetimes. Came so soon to emptied rooms. No longer recognize contents of the closets. I won't name names, but they clamped the heart. They declared me vacant, left me in long fall down stairwells of the body. Oh. And if I may, bodies from a better point of view, one of my favorite ways to feel better is to learn something new, like take a deep dive, study something. And this was written when I read something about people were trying to figure out if water, if the molecules have memory, like, and how cool if we can get that harnessed. So I did a deep dive in that and came up with this, bodies of water. Grown men argue whether a pond can recall holding a lotus. whether bitter herbs leave an imprint in a bowl of salted water, whether water remembers. And while I have nothing to add to the arguments of those in their society, royal and mad, it is water that I am, that you are, a drop of stillness from the green Sahara, melt from the third pole. If we could peer with new eyes into the society of atoms, we could see into our bonds, steeped in instability, yet how they bind us. By adhesion, cohesion, we traveled up the capillaries of ginkgos, raised wooden branches of the conifers in Hosanna. In the cross-section of a twig, we could see how the shoot holds fast to its channels, each cell sorting itself, how untroubled tissue encircles the bundles. And here within, how we rose on the thin layer between there and where the xylem and bark split over and over, how we erupted in joy. Each wooden spring, our greening recollection, carries tears of our old brown sky. And one more that I picked because it leads into, I'm very familiar with Hilary's book. And this is about bodies too, but it also is about sewing. And she's got a lot of sewing in her book. So I thought, okay, I'll read this one. And then we can hear from Hilary. Speaking of which, everyone who spoke, I'm so glad. I was so glad to hear you. This is my favorite kind of reading, where there are more than one, two voices, where we can all share a time, share words. Anyway, nearly human. This has an epigraph. Of course, the Neverlands vary a good deal. J.M. Barrie. A sound turned inside out. The window rattled. A bird tried to fly through the living room glass, like the wish so fleeting that I could have done something. As custodian of the outward view, I took a look outside. No body to be found beyond an imprint on sheet glass, a smudge of shadow, glaze for eye. It's strange what a window will and won't accommodate. You can stand at a window, pretend what you see was placed there for you, in the way a ghost might be proof of a body. Birds produce powder to waterproof their feathers, a dust fine enough to appear on glass, a fact to be found in the body of science, as can death, changing as we learn more. It was a window that snapped Peter's shadow off. Wendy was able to sew it back to his foot, though I can't be trusted to know the book from the stage show. I tire of unreliable narrators, yet so often am one. In this rendition of the story, those who swim in air are saved. The others grow up, and we all know what that means. Junk mail, window washing, death imagined until it's not. I am unsupervised now, spent a lifetime dragging lifetimes into the steady hum of a machine with pedals attaching buttons to fingers by accident. I am no puppet master, just another character working in low light, hemming the folds, tacking the extra into something to be passed down, something like make-believe. Once upon a time, a bird hit the window. It's so sudden when it happens, but if you hold your beating heart in the stillness before what will be, you can let the story wheel change the ending. If you hear rattling, you might say, Peter, Peter, is that you? Though you know you are Peter, and you are Wendy. You have left the window open. Your shadow's gone. Anyway, thank you very, very much. Yay, Hilary.
Our next guest tonight, Hilary King, was born and raised in the Blue Ridge Mountains of Virginia. After spending over 20 years in Atlanta, Georgia, she moved with her family to the San Francisco Bay Area of California here. Her poems have appeared in many publications, and she has been nominated for Pushcarts and Best of the Web. She is currently an MFA student at San Jose State. She is also an editor for DMQ Review. Her book of poems, Stitched on Me, was published this fall by Riot in Your Throat Press. She loves hiking, travel, and ribbon. For more information, please visit HilaryKingWriting.com. Please welcome Hilary to the mic.
Woo! Hilary! Thank you. I'm skipping class to be here. So I haven't been able to come, and I don't mind skipping a 3-hour Zoom class. This is much more fun. Get organized here. I am going to read from my book, but I'm going to start with some other poems, and I'll close with some other poems. Tough week, I think, for a lot of people. So I did write a little bit about that, and they're still in progress, but I'm going to go ahead and read some of those. This first is called When I Think of America. I picture a map, and I remember how big America is. So big, Rhode Island can fit into Texas 221 times. So big, we have extra. 2 Virginias, 2 Carolinas, 2 Dakotas. We even have 2 Washingtons, one tucked high into a corner, the other a swamp, with a pretty White House sinking in the middle of it. What a weird, wonky puzzle this country is. States in the middle are like plates shoved into a cabinet, while New England requires squinting to distinguish which former Puritan colony is which. Almost every state in America has one side where the border is a hard, straight line, while the other side is jagged, as if torn from its neighbor. These lines separate citizens by taxes, drinking laws, and where a woman can feel safe. In person, shoulder to shoulder, the lines disappear. You, me, we can fit into Texas 200 times. This is where the poem should say, Texas can fit into us too. But the side of me that was wavy, that was jagged, that rippled like a flag, has hardened, and for right now, my borders are closed. The election also made me think of being a billionaire. So this is called If I Was a Billionaire. It's pretty new. If I was a billionaire, I'd challenge all the other billionaires in a race to Mars. I'd give them a head start halfway across the solar system. Then I'd turn back and let them win. Sorry, Mars. If I were a billionaire, I'd buy back Florida. I miss the sweet sandy tackiness, the swampy majesty of the Everglades, the blessed boring normalcy of a state that's not trying to kill me or free speech. I might donate Miami, though, or turn it into a museum. If I were a billionaire, I'd let everyone in. Everyone. I'm not a saint. I'm a businessman. I'd be down at the border looking for who's going to invent the next big thing, write the next big thing, sing the next big thing. Isn't it better to let more customers in? I'd build a bookstore on every block. If the bookstores failed, I'd turn each block into a park and let the inventory rot. Poems and stories and ideas would blossom up through the concrete. Someone, maybe even me, would pick one, hold it, share it, spend it like a fortune to fill the greed within me. And so this is my book, which was published in October, and a lot of them are about growing up in the South. I was born and raised in Roanoke, Virginia, which is what Lee Smith, the Southern writer, calls the Mountain South. That means we're not as flamboyant as, say, the Deep South, but we're still quite Southern. I then lived in North Carolina, Nashville, and spent over 20 years in Atlanta. And then we moved here, and it's quite a culture shock. But it's a culture shock that I've grown to really appreciate. And I think it was only moving here that I could kind of look back and begin to write about what growing up in the South as a woman meant to me. This first poem is called Stitched on Me. Here, we women root ourselves in the humid soil of expectation. Deference, our genus. Watch us bend towards each other. You're prettier. You're smarter. I'll clean the kitchen. You run the war. To shout, I want. To whisper, I won't. My mother stitched on me the monogram of martyrdom. The blood she drew matched what she'd worn all her life. What a clean kitchen I have. This is called Rooms After a Funeral. Too young to hold or bless my mother's hands as she wept into them, sitting next to my brother as they both shook with grief, I moved like a breeze through the forest of strangers crowding our house, the place we'd moved to before cancer moved into my father. That house, my mother's shout, each room her echo, fern wallpaper in the dining room, gingham in my sister's room, the banister she polished back to brightness. I fled from her silhouette that night to the top of her house, to my mother's studio, her easel square in the middle of the room, anchor to the ship of her ambition. She wouldn't sail again for years. This is called Edge Stitch. First, you were the thread. Now you are the needle, easing your mother's arms into her coat as she stands docile as a child. Once you chafed in her grip. Mornings, she combed out your wildness. Bleak seasons, she harvested only your flaws. In return, you gave her silence. It takes her slow unspooling to weaken the knots between you. When she trails off over lunch, staring silently at her soup, you pick up the thread, talking, telling, keeping the needle moving. I'm going to dip out of the book and lighten it up with one about one of my children. This is called Group Exercise. My son says he's not a joiner, so I take him to Jazzercise. It's October, Breast Cancer Awareness Month. Everyone in the shabby cinder block community center is wearing pink. The instructor is wearing a pink tutu and leg warmers. She shrieks my name when she sees me. My 17-year-old son instantly turns into ashes. But I've saved his life before, so I sweep his ashes into a circle by my feet and we begin. 60 minutes of cardio, skipping, hopping, grapevining to the right, grapevining to the left, bodies moving closer, apart, closer. I always have trouble figuring out my space within the space. Too far and I lose my spot. Not far enough, I crowd everyone out. Sure enough, I slide too far as I make sure I step around the ashes, which have now become the soil of early spring. I bump into the woman in front of me. She's wearing a pink tank top and is in great shape. Sorry, I say. I try to be careful for the remainder, but I end up far from where I started, where I drop my belongings, and my son is ashes again. At the end of the class, the woman in the pink tank top turns to me and says, "Good job. Tough class, huh?" We high five. The instructor shrieks my name goodbye as we leave. My son reforms into himself, gives a wave and half a smile. This is called Pantoum with Envy and Emily Dickinson. This feather in my chest, how did it get stuck there? Who buried the key? Don't say me, Emily D. I was looking up. I saw who flies with the gods like Mary O and Emily D. Their bones, their arrows. Those who fly with the gods try their wings out on the ground. I let my bones get crumpled under muddy envy and clayish compare. I must learn to grow the wings of beauty and other birds not born of stone envy and childish despair. What separates winged and walking? Beauty and other idols not busy measuring this feather in my chest. What separates winged and slithering? Don't say me, Emily D. This is called The Volcanologist. Another dry day, the sun unclouded in the 7 a.m. sky. The dog's leash heavy and hot in my hand. I thought the volcano would fix the weather, my husband says, and I realize how wrong I've been, how poorly I use the space we save for dreams. His, a meadow, a green and daisied place, where seeds of knowledge blow in, then promptly blossom. He could become a volcanologist yet, my husband thinks. I've let sorrow fill the sky between my ribs, become a spillway for all our floods. Daughter's bloody bitten nails, cancers, accounts due. Who the better steward of their acreage? Not the one squinting and sweating, struggling to pull the family dog from the bushes. And Jess said she liked this one, so I'm going to read it. What daughters wear to fly? And I wrote this after just looking around the airport one day. What daughters wear to fly? In airports all over the world, girls are preparing to fly. They travel without the armor of their mothers. No overstuffed purse, no jacket with familiar pockets, no shoes appropriate for departing one place and arriving in another. No, our daughters wear t-shirts, leggings, flip-flops thin as the heart of the patriarchy. I'm not cold, my daughter insists during the red eye. And indeed, she never shivers or stumbles as she pulls our baggage behind her. Got a few more. This is called Bury Me in Coastal Grandmother, and there's an epigraph. Coastal Grandmother is a aesthetic fashion choice involving loose clothing and comfy clothing. The epigraph is from Southern Living magazine, and it reads, "The coastal grandmother aesthetic embraces lifestyle choices and leisurely walks on the beach are included." Bury me in coastal grandmother. Gone the bright colors that prop up midlife. Yellow hello, red armor. Banish the leather jacket, the screw you of school pickup years. Good riddance to skinny jeans and tiny dreams. What's left? A meal, a drink, to sleep through the night twice in a row. On me these days, I want only breeze and brim. Soft sweater, linen pants, hat of woven straw. Calm colors to neutral my way out. Pockets full, but room for one more key. Two more, and this next one is about one of my favorite apps. I will confess it. How many stars? How many stars have I collected? On the Starbucks app, I mean. That's the one thing I don't like about the app, besides the greed and corporate no-goodness. It can be hard to find reward. Sometimes the sky hides from me, and sometimes I hide among the molehills I make and the sport I play of being busy. I look to the sky seeking sweetness, to work a whole day in the garden, to sit at a tiny table with my love, drinking flat whites and Americanos. Yet the tiny table between us tilts, unsteady, the ground beneath us uneven, bumpy. Nothing in life is ever smooth. Ease, reward, simply functioning smoothly, can't be expected, can't be anticipated. So when I stand at the top of the parking deck and push place order, descend down the stairs, cross at the light, enter the shop just as the barista is putting my cup on the counter, I feel like a comet, a meteor shower, a sky filled with shooting stars. And this last one was inspired by a concert I saw at Shoreline this summer. And it's called I Saw Bob Dylan Play This Summer. And he was just okay. He came on after Mellencamp and before Willie Nelson. The 6 p.m. early August sun shining on John Cougar Mellencamp like time's own spotlight. Mellencamp rocked it. The crowd singing in their seats to Cherry Bomb and Little Pink Houses, then up on our feet dancing to Jack and Diane. When Dylan came on, all in black, bushy hair, we stood, excited, respectful. Then, slowly, 1, 2, then 3 at a time, we sat and sipped our $20 beers. It's all new stuff, someone huffed. Then it was Willie's turn. Willie Nelson, who's 91, God bless him, bandana and braids and all. And the moment he launched into Whiskey River, Take My Mind, Don't Let Memory Torture Me, the many sitting bodies blossomed into one swaying, singing body. I can't remember now what they used to say. Was rock and roll supposed to die or live forever? We didn't know we could reinvent it like this. Age narrows the horizon, but it also offers directness. Get to the joy. Sing it first. Sing it last. Sing it loud. Every night at the end of the show, Willie takes off his red bandana and sails it out to the crowd, a new memory to stack on top of the old. Thank you.
Thank you to the people in Zoom. I'll get over here. Yes, we've got books here for sale. We've got food here and we've got an exhibit over there behind in the main gallery. Please check it out. All right. And hope to see you next month when we will have folks here for the Red Wheelbarrow Poetry Prize. And with special guests, Kim Adonisio and folks from across the country reading their work that was awarded a prize or was awarded as a finalist. All right. Thank you so much. Have a great night.
Thank you so much. Do check us out. Check out pcsj.org. Check out workssj.org. Thanks to those of you who are members, including Rob. And yeah, so see you soon. Yeah, next time with Red Wheelbarrow, it'll be interesting. Last year it was 99 attendees were in the studio next door. So we'll see how it goes this last time. All right.